If you're trying to break into AI governance right now, I need to show you something. The job you think you're preparing for is not the job companies are hiring for any longer. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying it because a shift is already happening. And if you're not paying attention, you could spend months learning the wrong things in the wrong areas and still not get hired. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what's actually changing and why most people are not ready for it, and what you could start doing today that's different. Hi, my name is Dr. Obi. I'm a researcher and consultant in the area of cybersecurity and AI governance, and I help professionals transition into AI governance careers. If that's you, make sure you subscribe. Okay, so let's get into it. Many people are learning AI governance like it's a framework memorization exercise. They're focused on NIST AI risk management, ISO 4201, and the EU AI Act. And look, those are absolutely important. I talk about them all the time. But this is what I am seeing right now in the market that I think many may be missing. Companies are no longer hiring people who just understand those frameworks. They are hiring people who can operate inside real AI systems. And that's a fundamentally different skill set. And the data backs this up. A drop report published in February 2026 found that Fortune 500 hiring for AI governance and model risk skills increased 81% year over year. Now that's massive. But when you dig into what those postings actually are asking for, it's not, can you explain the NIST AI risk management framework? It is, can you classify use cases? Can you assess risks in production? Can you review model controls and work across legal, security, product, and engineering teams? And that's operational. That's applied. And that's where the gap is opening up. So let me break down the three specific shifts that I'm seeing. Shift number one is from policy to practice. And a year ago, you could build an AI governance career around talking about policies, principles, and compliance. Now, you're expected to answer questions like, where does risk actually show up in this model? How do you test the system before deployment? And what controls are we putting into place right now? Not theory, but today. Knowing the rules is just basic stuff. Showing how those rules work inside a real system, that's what gets you hired. The second shift is from static models to dynamic systems. We're moving into an era of agentic AI, autonomous decision systems, and continuous learning environment. Microsoft's own research found that over 80% of Fortune 500 companies are already using active AI agents. And Gartner predicts that 40% of enterprise applications will feature task specific AI agents by the end of 2026. This is up from under 5% in 2025. Now, what does this all mean for governance? It means that risk is no longer a one time assessment, it's continuous, it's evolving, and it's harder to detect. You're no longer governing a model, you're governing behaviors. The third shift is from documentation to decision making. This one is the biggest shift, and I think the least talked about. AI governance used to be a documentation role. You write policies, you produce reports, you create compliance artifacts, and that still matters, but it's no longer enough. Now, governance professionals are expected to influence product decisions, deployment decisions, and risk trade offs. You're in the room when teams are debating whether to ship a model or hold your advice and leadership on which AI vendors to trust and which to walk away from. One article in CTO magazine captured it well. AI governance is shifting from abstract ethics to practical systems. The organizations that get it right are building resilience and trust. The ones that get it wrong are finding that failures are spreading faster and costing more than in any other technology cycle. So AI governance is becoming a decision-making role and not a documentation role. So here is where I want to be straightforward with you. A lot of people are preparing for the old version of this job. They're assuming if I learn the framework, I'll be qualified. And I get why that feels logical, but that's not how the market is moving. What I'm seeing, and I look at this very closely, is that people can explain AI governance, but they cannot apply it. They can't answer questions like, what would you do if the model shows bias in production? How would you validate the system before it launches? What risks would you flag and why? And what's the trade off if we accept them? The gap is no longer just knowledge, it's in application. And this is a simple truth about what the data is saying, especially from the drop report. It's saying that companies are not hiring for potential, they're hiring for proof. Individual contributor AI governance roles are growing at roughly 30% year over year, outpacing management hiring. They want people who can do the work, not just talk about it. Meanwhile, nearly half of employees are using unsanctioned AI tools through personal devices, according to Netscope 2026 Cloud and Threat Report. Shadow AI is everywhere. Companies need governance people who can actually get their arms around what's happening inside these organizations, not just writing policies that sit in a SharePoint folder. So stay till the end of this video because I'm going to share with you the skill progression framework that shows you exactly where to focus at each stage of your career, from beginner to advanced. Okay, so what should you actually be doing? Let me give you 3 things. Number 1, learn how AI systems actually work. You don't need to be a developer, and I'm not telling you to go learn Python, but you do need to understand how data flows into a model, where bias enters, where errors emerge, and where decisions get made. What happens when a model updates itself? And the reason you do this is because you can't govern what you don't understand. And if you're walking into a conversation with an engineering team and you can't explain what a risk looks like inside their system, not just on a compliance checklist, you're going to lose credibility fast. This is especially true now that we're dealing with agentic AI systems. These systems don't just respond to prompts, they take autonomous action across tools and data sources. So governing them requires some understanding about how they chain decisions, how they escalate, and where human oversight needs to exist. Number 2 is practice real AI governance scenarios. Stop just reading about AI governance. Start doing it. Ask yourself, if I were an AI governance lead here, what would I do? So pick up an AI product that you use every day. Think about the risks surrounding that product. What data is it trained on? Who does it affect? What could go wrong? What controls could you put into place? Better yet, build something. Create an AI risk assessment for a hypothetical AI deployment. Write an AI use case classification framework. Draft an incident response playbook for a model that starts behaving unpredictably. Okay. Now, the market rewards people who can think through AI problems, not just people who can repeat frameworks. Number 3 is build hybrid skill sets. This is where I think people miss the biggest opportunities. The strongest AI professionals in 2026 are not just policy people. They're not just technical people either. They are people who can connect AI capability with governance controls and real world decision making. That means a combination of different things. For example, AI literacy, which means understanding how systems work and where they fail. It also means risk and compliance fluency, which means understanding privacy, bias, explainability, and documentation. It also means that you understand business translation, which means that you know how to turn technical and legal requirements into workable processes. And then you know how to do cross-functional communications. You know how to communicate with people at different levels, whether you're working with engineers, lawyers, auditors, HR, and executives. So there's no single right background, but there is a right skill mix, and it's broader than most people think. Okay, so let me give you a practical way to think about where you are and where you need to go. Number one is if you are at a beginner level, you're building foundations, you need to understand basic AI and machine learning terms. You need to recognize that AI creates legal, ethical, and operational risks. You need to be able to explain AI concerns in plain language. This is where the free resources come in. The NIST AI Risk Management Framework, the EU AI Act, the OWASP Top 10 for LLMs, all of these things are free and they are all essential. Then from the beginner level, we advance to the intermediate level. In this level, you are applying the knowledge that you acquired. You can identify risks by use case, bias, privacy, hallucination, security. You know these things. You can assess data quality and lineage. You can map AI use cases to legal and compliance requirements. And most importantly, you can work across different functions, whether it's legal, product engineering, or leadership. Then we come into the advanced level. This is where you're designing these systems. You're building risk tiering methods and escalation logic. You're creating audit ready documentation and governance playbooks. You're interpreting evolving regulations and translating them into operating controls. And you're driving consensus across teams and maintaining governance accountability. Now, the key insight is that most job postings right now are looking for intermediate to advanced. They want people who have moved past just understanding into people who can now apply it. So if you are at the beginner stage, your priority is building towards the intermediate capability as fast as possible through practice and real work products. So AI governance is not slowing down, it's accelerating, but it isn't theoretical, not anymore. And the gap between people who understand AI governance and the people who can do AI governance is getting wider every day. So the question is, which side are you going to be? So if you're serious about making this transition, start building applied capability, not just knowledge. And that's what the market is paying for. That's what gets you into the room. If this helped you see the shift more clearly, subscribe and drop a comment. What's the biggest gap you see between how people are preparing and what companies are actually hiring for? So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.